To order and rise for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Linda, would you call the roll, please?
Councillor Boland?
Here.
Councillor Fisher?
Here.
Councillor Furlow?
Here.
Councillor Grizzle?
Here.
And Councillor Rees-Camp is absent.
Okay, we move on now with the first order of business is to approve the council meetings of October 12, 2016, the regular session minutes.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, now we have the consent calendar. The following items are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be a separate discussion of these items unless a councilor so requests. In this case, the item or items will be removed from the consent calendar and considered separately. Now, on the consent calendar, we have the agenda and the board minutes and the Lebanon City Council agenda of November 9, 2016, the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Board July 28 and September 22, 2016, the Library Advisory Committee July 12, 2016, Planning Commission September 21, 2016, Senior and Disabled Services Advisory Committee April 20th, 2016, and naming the trail segment the Northside Community Trail, which you all have a letter from the Build Lebanon Trails in your packets there. Do I have
Move for
approval? Or?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion for approval and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the public comments. The council welcomes all respectful comments regarding the city business. Citizens may address the council by approaching the microphone, signing in, and stating their name and address for the record. Each citizen is provided up to 5 minutes to provide comments to the council. The council may take an additional 2 minutes to respond. The city clerk will accept and distribute written comments at speaker's request. Is there anyone that would like to speak to the council? Well, seeing none, we'll move on to the regular session. Okay, the number one is the water rates for snowbirds, presented by Gary Marks, City Manager, and Tina Huff, Assistant Finance Director. And it's a matter of discussion.
Mr. Council President and members of the council, you'll recall that I think it was a couple of meetings ago there was a discussion about whether or not there should be a special rate extended to folks who leave town for parts of the year. Some call them snowbirds. And there was a discussion that before the council could really consider that idea, that you wanted staff to quantify that for you in terms of how many folks it looked like from our records might qualify for such a discount, and what that might cost. So staff has performed that work. Tina is here tonight to give you the report, which is also in written form in your packet. So, Tina.
Thank you, Gary. Hello, Council.
Is your mic on, Tina?
Yeah, why don't you pull your mic up? Pull it up to you.
Hello?
Yes,
Hello.
that's better.
I'm not sure if it'll get cold enough this year for anybody to leave, but we'll find out. Our department, we did our best guesstimate. We took 170 accounts that we consider are snowbirds. That's one or less units of sewer. We have no way of really knowing if those are true snowbirds without opening every account, looking at their history, forwarding addresses, or just asking the customer in general. So with that said, now to the cost. Snowbirds must pay the minimums that all customers pay when the house is occupied or unoccupied, which is, the minimum is $53.17. So the only area that we could consider relieving the snowbirds on would be the sewer. You could take their 1 unit down to 0, which would be a savings of $6.77. With that being said, then we take them to 0, and then the winter average then that we take and estimate, then they get to keep that all year long, so they're essentially getting 2 discounts. So you might want to consider that in your decision for snowbirds.
Could you explain that real quick one more time? So if you take their sewer down to 0 for the winter or for the duration
For
that
the
they're
months
gone.
they're gone, their duration they're gone, then we calculate that into their winter average, which they carry all year long.
Oh, gotcha. So that when the July rates hit again,
Correct.
that winter average will be lower for them. So their
They're
year-round
getting a
rates
savings.
will be lower
Yes.
than everybody else's.
That everybody else is.
Okay.
Sewer rate is based on your winter average
Well,
Correct.
yeah.
for the
Right.
previous year. Yeah.
So, yeah. So, yes.
So how many months did you look at someone being absent to consider them a snowbird? Was this they had 1 period with 0 or 1, or they had 4 or
3.
5? 3.
3.
Okay. Do we know typically how long when you snowbird away? Are you gone for?
3 to 6 months.
Okay.
You're going to discuss water also?
For the snowbirds?
Yes.
Well, their consumption is 0 already.
But one of the comments that we heard was that there was a base rate charge issue on the water that they were also concerned
Well,
about.
she's saying that the base is there. What they would like is for a reduction of that base
Correct.
as well.
Yeah.
I think that's what they're
and
driving.
I've said it many times, so stop me if I'm just a broken record. Our rates are bifurcated. There's 2 elements, 2 major elements. One is the infrastructure element, which you pay whether or not, you pay it by virtue of the fact that you own or rent property, for the fact that we have to maintain a system. It has nothing to do with your usage. So there's that, but then there's the volumes that you use. And the volume of water you use is then used to calculate how many units of sewer. So they're already gone over those months, so their water usage will be 0, but they'll still be paying on that average during those winter months for usage of the sewer, although they won't be using the sewer. So what the staff is saying, if you want to do this, we would recommend that we leave the infrastructure element of the rate structure in place, because then over a long haul, then we're going to talk about kind of a displacement or reassignment of that revenue to other customers, because ultimately the money has to come in. The maintenance of the system doesn't go down. So that's what we're saying, and if you want to consider the sewer usage, you could make a case for that if that's the policy you want to pursue, but it would be a minimal savings.
So what is the bottom line? How much, and maybe you said it and I missed it, what's the total amount which would be reallocated to the rest of the citizens?
The best
Well,
case.
go ahead.
Go ahead. The best case scenario that we could come up with is the $6.77, which is 1 unit of sewer.
But then the rest of their bill
Right.
would go down. So
The rest of their bill throughout the year would actually decrease too, because we're not getting that unit then for the rest of the year.
So some sort of an adjustment needs to be made to I have a lot of people very concerned about that very thing, that people who can afford to leave town will be saving money, and I do sympathize with their position, but there are a lot of people who are stuck in town either financially or for whatever obligation, and they're worried that they're going to pay even just a little bit more on our already strained rates.
Well, they're already getting a discount. I mean, by virtue of not being here,
Right.
you already are going to pay a lower summer sewer rate
or a lower sewer rate for the following year than you would if you were here flushing your toilet and running your sink.
Right, so
and
their
doing laundry.
summer bills are already
Already
lower than
lower
everybody.
than the average citizen.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's something that I had not considered previous
Bob,
discussion.
I've read the minutes here back in 2012. You were on the council then. Can you add anything to the flavor besides what's in black
No.
and white here?
It's been so long back, but we listened to everything, and we decided at that point just to leave everything as they are, and for the time being.
I really liked having all of our previous minutes to go back through and
Yeah.
kind of go like, oh yeah, that's right.
I've kind of flipped on this. After doing a little more reading and realizing the extra discount that's already there, by virtue of them being gone, I don't think we should move forward with any kind of a additional reduction in fees.
One more point is, for staff level too, is the tracking, is the turning off the units, turning on the units, and the tracking of when they leave, when they come back.
Well, and there's the $6 fee is a monthly fee, is that correct?
Correct.
So you're gone for, let's say you're gone for 6 months. You're talking $36 or $40, let's say.
Correct.
But the turn off and turn on fee that we're going to charge you, because we still have to pay for that, is going to wipe out the money you saved.
Correct.
It seems like a loser.
And you'd have to consider that too, whether you do apply those fees to a
How
snowbird.
can we not? When we charge
Right.
this one
Correct.
40.
Because there's labor involved in.
Sure, but how can we say, well, we're not going to charge you the
It has to
fee,
take
but we'll
place.
charge your neighbor the fee when we lock him out or when we turn him back on?
Because they can't afford it.
Right, yeah.
Correct.
I think it's a stickier situation than to just say, give him a break, and I don't think we should go any further with pursuing it.
I agree with you. I think we should leave it the way it is from we see all the facts and findings here.
I appreciate the legwork, and I think that your facts present a great explanation of why. It's not that we're being harsh or we're being unreasonable.
Right.
It's that you're already kind of getting a bit of a break,
Right.
small as it may be, but
And I want to add my support to that, but also comment on what Gary said, because as I remember the discussion from some of the citizens was they were looking for relief from that base rate also, and that would be inappropriate.
Right.
and when you explain that the base rate is the infrastructure,
That's a cost
Fund.
shift.
Yeah.
The other is a user portion. And that, so thank you for continuing to remind us of that, Gary.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Do we have a consensus? Rebecca, Fred? Okay, we'll leave it as is for the time being at least. Okay, we'll move on to,
Just one thing, there was one or more citizens that asked about this issue. Can we close the loop with them? Can staff get back with them and let them know, so they don't just
The
have to read
gentleman,
it in the
has he been
paper?
Yes.
in touch with you?
the Joy Street,
The gentleman that was here.
are we talking about the pedestal?
No.
No,
Water.
there were a couple of people
Oh,
that were
sorry.
concerned about the snowboard issue, and I just wanted to close.
I have
the
not
loop
had any
with
more
that.
contact, citizen contact since then.
Maybe they can.
okay, let's move on to item number 2, is the Lebanon downtown sidewalk sales presented by Walt. I always have.
Not even Walt, don't worry about it.
But Walt's not here.
Mr. President, Walt was called away with a family situation, and I told him that I would do my best to fill in,
Okay.
kind of at the last minute. I am not Walt, so I won't have the depth that he does, but the council, I believe, will remember this past August, the Lebanon Downtown Association requested from you and received a permit to hold sidewalk sales on Saturdays between August 13th and October 29th. Apparently, they enjoyed that so much that they would like to have that approved for, it's the whole year round now, Monica?
Capped it in July, so we can come back.
Okay, through next July 1st, to July 1st, 2017. This is a special or temporary use permit in the development code that requires the council to approve it. Walt's staff report is in the packet. If you have any questions, I will do my best to answer those. But there's a resolution if the council decides to grant the request that would need to be enacted.
I love sidewalk sales. I just think it creates such, like, atmosphere and excitement downtown. I love it, so.
I agree. It's a good thing.
I don't have any problem with it at all, so do we need any further discussion? Okay, Trey, would you read the resolution, please?
Resolution number 2016-36, a resolution allowing temporary downtown sidewalk sales on Saturdays.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the resolution and a second. Do we need any further discussion? I'd call for a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, agenda item number 3 is next. And that's establishing an arts commission presented by Gary Marks, city manager.
Again, Mr. President, members of the council, I'll ask you to, well, actually my report's in the packet, but ask you to think back on the strategic plan and the vision, which is up on the wall here. Really, what's in discussion here impacts 2 of the focus areas of our vision. One is downtown, and I like to think of the arts and culture as kind of the little brother or little sister to all of our aspirations for downtown because of the very large part that the arts and cultural events will play in what our vision is for downtown. Not that the arts is going to be confined to downtown, but there are 9 action items out of the 77 that populate the plan and 35 that belong to the city that depend on the establishment of an arts commission. And when the strategic plan task force put together the strategic plan, they did so mindful of the fact that these arts items needed to have a focused group of individuals interested in the arts to drive those items forward and to accomplish them. So what you have in front of you is an ordinance to create that commission. It is the arts, which is more than just visual arts. It's performing arts. It's music and literature. So it's the broader realm of the arts. We're not limiting ourselves to the visual, which many cities do. One of the key focus areas is going to be our new Strawberry Plaza, which has both the performing arts on the stage and also the visual arts, which will be the art boards on the sides of the walls. And I'm anticipating probably other movable items like sculptures may visit and come and go from the space, as well as on Main Street and some of the side streets. So it is a large part of what we have in mind for downtown. The ordinance creates a committee of 7 individuals who either have a background in the arts or an interest. You wouldn't necessarily have to have a lot of experience. We want a broad cross-section of folks, preferably from the different realms of the arts. Our commission is going to be a little bit different, too, in the fact that our vision sees the acquisition of art, the display of art, decisions about where it goes, the establishment of an art endowment fund, which then gets us into a financial realm of accepting gifts and that sort of thing, and when they come with strings attached to them, we need to be careful on that. And also, the acceptance of art. I've been around long enough in city government that I've seen, fortunately none of my cities, but I've seen neighboring cities in the various places I've been get in trouble when certain types of art offend certain elements of your community. Those are pains I don't think we want. We're a fairly traditional community, and so those are things that we want to protect. Also, and I've already mentioned this, is the heavy focus on the strategic action plan goals. That is the whole reason for our Arts Commission, really. So with all those in mind, when I put this together, it became evident to me that you need real leadership. Artists are wonderful people. I'm one of them. Most of us are introverted types, and to find an artist leader is a very difficult thing to do. So I took a bold step, and you can throw this back at me if you want, but I kind of volunteered myself to chair this as a non-voting member to make sure that the fiduciary elements are covered, that the acceptance of art and the placement of it is something that the city administration representing you can kind of make sure that we're moving in the right direction and that kind of thing. And probably the most important area is that we are able to sustain our focus on the action items in our strategic plan, which is the reason for the commission, really. So I've made myself the city manager as the chair. If you don't like that, I can certainly understand that, but I think to be effective, this puts us several rungs up from what you might expect from an ordinary arts commission. There may come a point in our future where we can fly on our own as an arts commission without me, and I would welcome that. But at least as we get this thing going and ramping it up and bringing forth some of the critical elements that our downtown will rely on, that's what I did. You get to decide if that's a good idea or not. So I just wanted to make you very much aware of that. I am excited about this commission. I think it'll allow us to start moving ahead very rapidly on several of the elements for downtown. As you know, Strawberry Plaza is under construction. It's been delayed because of some engineering that we had trouble getting our contracted engineer to provide to us. That logjam is gone now. We've been formed up for some time. I'm anticipating that you would have some questions about that. We have some metal fabrication taking place now that needs to go into those forms before we pour the concrete, but I believe you're going to see action on that pretty soon. So with all that said, the plaza is coming along. Now is really the time we need to start talking about the performing arts program that will take place, that will be central to the stage element of the plaza, and then also the year-round rotation program for the art panels that will be on the walls. That work needs to get going right away. So I've said enough. If you have questions, I'll be happy to respond to those, and I would recommend that you adopt the ordinance.
Any questions?
I do. I have zero problem with you leading it, because I think at this time that's appropriate, and it makes sense, and given your experience. That won't always be the case for Lebanon in perpetuity. I almost prefer it to be somebody that the mayor appoints, or appointed by the council, or something, or we just are cognizant of the fact that, you know, it's going to be hard to remember 12, 15 years from now when you retire, oh, we need to revisit that, and how do we...
I know how that will come up. Chances are your next manager will not be an artist.
Right.
And when they discover that they are the chair of the art commission, they'll probably come to you and say, what's this about, council?
Yeah.
And we could adjust it at that time, I guess.
Yeah, and that's the thing about who you are as a policy board. You can make adjustments when you want. And rather than try to project those forward in the ordinance now, I believe that when that time comes, the council will be in a better position to the specific circumstances at the time to make the changes that might make the most sense to the council. So, but that's up to you. You're the policy board.
Yeah, I'm very comfortable as I read that. I think you have the experience and the talent and the focus that we need to get these strategic initiatives in place. My recommendation would be is just to be cautious of those other 34 things that are likely to come across the plate that the city's responsible for, and not necessarily simply wait until the time you retire to make that change. But, you know, if Michelangelo happens to move to Lebanon, it might be appropriate to try to coax him out of his shadow and step forward.
Well, chances are I'm very likely to come to you in several years and ask you to take me off when I can, like, you know, if I can see it fly on its own. But when it's in its infancy right now,
I
Strong leadership is needed.
think that's absolutely critical. And my only concern about that was your workload. How many of those other initiatives will you be able to balance that will have that same priority, that will need that kind of focus?
This is a labor of love for me. I wouldn't worry about my workload. It's compensated by my passion.
I'm all for the Arts Commission, and I think it's going to be fantastic for downtown potentially, and I think it's going to draw visitors that would not otherwise be here, and so I'm very much in favor of it. I'm a contract guy, I'm a language guy, and so I don't like having the city manager in there as being designated. I have no problem with you doing it, and I would expect you to do it. I don't, speaking as a observer, I don't think anyone would oppose you volunteering and saying, I'm happy to do this group. Is anyone opposed to that? And they would say, gladly, here you go. But I'm against having it be the city manager, just because, yes, we can take it out again, but to me it's an initial step. And also in 10, 12 years, we're all gone, and everyone's looking around going, why is this in here? What? And that's legwork for staff to have to go back and research and find it. And I just think we take it out and we have, do it. If you want to do it for 2 years, if you want to do it for 10 years.
Make the mayor have the ability to appoint that position.
However, or the group itself select someone.
That's what I'm worried about. I'd rather see the mayor, I'd rather see us just do this or have the mayor appoint than have the group. Because you're going to have, these are fiery personalities.
How's
and
the
you're
mayor
going to
know? I mean, how's the mayor going to know who, other than, someone from the group's going to have to step up and say, I want to do this, like Gary's doing.
I know a lot of the folks now. I'm a member of the Lynn County Arts Guild. I'm a participant in the store downtown. So I know a lot of them, and last couple of months I haven't gone, but I go to their monthly meetings, that sort of thing. So I know a lot of these personalities already. I don't think you're going to encounter a problem with me in that position. I understand and am sensitive, in fact, to what you're saying about my role. However, the council deems that I should go forward in that capacity is fine with me.
Well, I would think we definitely need someone like Gary to head it up to begin with.
Yes.
And maybe as time goes on, you'll educate another person or feel that they're able to take over and take your job.
Right.
Well, and do we have any kind, so there's limited liability for the city. So they're not really sanctioned. To what extent is their relationship long-term to the city? Because if they can choose their own leader and go off in some odd direction,
that can happen.
Say you have a fight with them a year from now, and they kick you out. If we leave it that way, that could happen. And they have somebody else that's really contentious. They go off in a direction that we don't like, and puts us in a liable situation. We have no way to rein that back in if, in fact, we are not supervising the
Yes.
leader of that group. So in a way, I'm a little more comfortable like this, or like I said, with the mayor.
That's exactly why I did what I did.
And I think it's important to have some early and firm successes of the strategic plan rollout. And this is a concrete one. And we have a good leader to help implement.
Yes. So for now, we say Jason's wrong, and we move on.
So I can be right later?
You can be right another time, just not tonight.
I'm fine with the scenario, and even if the mayor appoints Gary, but I just don't like the language of having it state the city manager shall, will. I don't like that kind of language in there. So I would propose we remove that language, make it a mayor appointee, and I would recommend that the mayor appoint Gary until Gary no longer wants to do it, and then Gary can recommend his successor, just like everything else happens. So therefore, I'm right.
Well,
okay.
No, I mean honestly, I just don't like the language.
I can go.
I like the
can buy
shall
that.
language because I think it puts the council in a position to direct this group of volunteers.
But you're not going to have any power. That's different though. He's not serving when he's in that capacity, he's not serving.
He's not a voting member.
At the pleasure
but
of the
he's
council.
But he's the leader, and
Right, but-
leaders, and by virtue of his role as a recorder, in essence, for that, is able to focus that effort and direct it. And that, I believe, is important so that it doesn't run off the track and cause some of the issues that Rebecca is speaking of.
So what happens when Gary retires and Joe Blow comes on, and Joe Blow could care less about the art? He knows it's important, he supports it, but he has no interest in doing it.
Well,
Now you're faced with the same situation we are right now.
That's possible, but at that particular
It's not-
point in
it's-
time, I think there's some history. There's some synergy behind where the commission is going and some tradition that the city would have built. And those kinds of things would have been in place, and it would be more difficult for a group then to go off track.
But the poor manager who knows nothing and cares nothing about art is the de facto leader. I just,
But you're right, I think Gary's right in that he would come to us and change that. But I'm frankly a middle ground. I think that appointed by the mayor is a much better verbiage for me.
I guess I have a hard time just making a decision that we know we're going to change later. Let's just make it soluble now and move forward with it.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. You know what I mean? If we know we're going to change
Your
it.
point.
Yeah, if
I
we're going to
understand.
change it.
But I think the reason that I support this particular position is because I think it needs to have that now, and it needs to have that kind of direction. And the change at a later date is part of our business, to monitor and evaluate situations as they come up on an ongoing basis. That's what we're charged to do by the public.
But if we have that with the mayor appointing, and the mayor will have direction right now to appoint Gary. And so should that position become open again, it's still under the direction and guidance of council. So that's, I believe, the best, accomplishes what it is you're trying to accomplish. And solve some of my concerns.
Floyd, what do you think?
I don't know. I guess the other option would be to say that the city administrator chair it for the first 5 years, and after that point, it'll be reevaluated. The mayor would make a choice or something. That way we have our firmness at the beginning and flexibility later on. But I don't know. Don't want to make it complicated either.
Too late.
That sounds complicated.
Well, as acting mayor, do you want me to appoint Gary? It'd be official.
Well, we have to pass this first, right?
Or amend
Yeah, if you want to make the change that Jason's talking about, you probably need to massage the language.
Okay.
So,
well,
I don't know, Trey, if you've got a quick fix or not?
Well, I was working on a couple different scenarios. The first would be where we could put in there that the initial manager, or excuse me, the city manager shall act as an initial member of the commission and shall serve as the initial chairperson. We could do that, I had in here for the first year of the commission, and then beginning the second year of the commission itself could elect the manager,
Right.
or
The mayor.
Mayor.
until the mayor appoints somebody different. I
At
mean,
the pleasure of the mayor.
the other one was easier, where we just delete the additionally that one sentence and write the mayor shall appoint the chairperson who shall vote only in the event of a tie.
I like it. That's what I like.
Could you repeat that?
It just says that the mayor shall appoint the chairperson who shall vote only in the event of a tie.
Yeah, that works. You know, even if I wasn't on the scene, folks, you would want to have the chair appointed by the mayor. You want to have that focused consideration for leadership for this group. It's the nature of the personality that if the group starts picking its own leadership, I fear that the focus that the council wants and the attachment you want between yourselves and that committee will begin to erode.
Wholeheartedly
I've
agree.
seen that happen.
That's why I started on the second one, because I saw the discussion going that way, so.
I prefer the second language with just the mayor shall appoint, and then
That's fine with me.
you're it no matter what, so.
Yeah, it's fine with me. I didn't know how to write it. If that's the pleasure of the council, fine. I would recommend that you move forward with that and then adopt the ordinance.
I like it.
Well, do
I'm
we
in.
need to rewrite this before we vote on it then, or?
And you
Well,
just
I
read
think
that and as we approve.
One of
as
you need to
amended.
move the amendment. I'll read the amendment.
Move it first?
Oh, yeah.
Move
we
to
need-
approve the
Right, we
amendment.
need to move to approve it first, then somebody can move to amend.
Okay,
I'll
can you
read
read
the
it one more
amendment.
time?
The amendment will be on the second page, page 2 of 4, to delete the language, additionally, the city manager shall act as a member of the commission and shall serve as chairperson and shall vote only in the event of a tie, and amend that, add, the mayor shall appoint the chairperson who shall vote only in the event of a tie.
I move as amended.
Second.
All right, we
Move to
have a
approve.
motion for an amendment here and a second. Now, do we need to go through this ordinance?
Well, right, I move to approve the amendment within the ordinance, then we approve the ordinance as amended? Okay.
That work?
You have to
Right,
call
you
the
have to
question
read the
on,
ordinance.
you need to call the question on the amendment first.
Yeah.
That's the motion on the table.
Yeah, we do have. Okay, all those in favor of the motion on the table that Rebecca made and is seconded, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I can't vote. Okay, the motion passes. Oh, any opposed? The motion passes. Now I ask for the ordinance.
Yep,
Okay,
ordinance bill,
Ray?
sorry, ordinance bill number 2016-17, ordinance number 2886. A bill for an ordinance creating chapter 2.18, establishing the Lebanon Arts Commission as amended.
Move for approval.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the ordinance as amended. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion passes.
Thank you, council.
I hope Linda's got all that.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is item number 4, the city manager's report. Gary?
My report is in your packet, but I'll just hit a couple of the highlights. You're all aware that we had our summit on homelessness, which is, again, drawn from our strategic action plan. But we had our summit on October 27th. We had a much larger crowd than we expected. We had close to 300 people over at the Boulder Falls Center. The feedback that I received on it was all very positive. I think we launched our new effort on homelessness in a very strong fashion with that get-together. Since then, our coalition on homelessness, which is not a committee of the city, it's a kind of a loose-knit community group of representatives from social service agencies, from the faith community, and from local nonprofits who all have some sort of program or dealings with the homeless community. We've drawn representatives of all those folks together. Yes, the city initiated it, but then they are now proceeding to operate on a more autonomous fashion. One of the primary reasons we want to do that is the focus of the coalition is such that they will be considering individual situations, identifying the issues that individual homeless individuals may have, be it mental health, substance abuse, what have you, and then trying to marshal resources to address and meet those needs. Those are very personal discussions. Didn't feel like that was something that we wanted to have as a city committee, that those discussions about individuals are taking place in a public forum. So this is a loose community group that will be meeting to try to address these human needs. So, but that coalition has been launched. They've met twice now. They've adopted their mission statement, and they're now beginning the work of putting together and identifying their resources and moving forward. So Dave Albanese is the temporary chair of that group. The city will always have a representative on it, but at least initially we wanted strong leadership there, and I believe Dave certainly brings that to the need right now. So that's where we are with our efforts on homelessness. On the economic development front, Walt Wondolowski and myself took Representative Sherry Springer out on a wetlands tour last late October when it happened to be raining quite extensively. So we went on a mud bogging expedition out into some of our wetlands to show Representative Springer what it means when we talk about wetlands, how much of our 280 developable acres of industrial land are impacted. And along with that, we took two folks from Business Oregon to have them see the same things that we were showing Representative Springer. I feel like it was a real success. There was a discussion started between the three of them as a result of that tour, and I know that Sherry now is interested in exploring any legislative measures that might assist not just Lebanon, but the issue of wetlands and developable lands statewide. So that's that. On October 19th, I appeared on your behalf in front of the Lynn County Commission to present our amendments to our Cheetah Lake URD. I believe you're aware that we have to first amend the URD before we can sell the bonds that our Airport Road Extension Project, Russell Drive Project, the Community Garden, and some minor funding to the water treatment plant all rely on. So I did present that. I feel that I was favorably received by the commissioners. We are now awaiting their approval. They actually, by state law, must approve our plan before it comes to you. We hope to bring that plan to you at the December meeting. Also, I went on an interesting trip with Shelley Garrett in her role as a member of the LBCC board and some LBCC staff members down to Eugene to visit the RAIN Eugene Accelerator, which is a business incubator that was started down in downtown Eugene, where they provide space for budding entrepreneurs who have business ideas. They come in and they have space. They have collaboration with each other on ideas. They have mentors who have gone through the business formation process, most of them numerous times, so that they can advise these young entrepreneurs and help them launch their businesses. After about a 90-day period, they launch out beyond the building, and hopefully they're able to fly then. But they're seeing some really interesting success with that. The reason we went down with the LBCC, or I went down with the LBCC folks, is that, of course, LBCC owns the old J.C. Penney building on Main Street. They're kind of kicking around this idea of a business incubator in that space, which I think would be a wonderful addition to downtown, and it brings that energy and the vitality that we're looking for downtown into a space that to this point really has not been used to its full potential. So I left that meeting feeling pretty enthused and excited about the possibilities, and I know that the LBCC folks were too. So we'll see where that goes, but I wanted to make you aware of that. Those are really the high points from my report from the past month. If you have any questions on any of those items or anything else having to do with the city, I'd be happy to respond.
Any questions by the council?
Any news on Blue Zone?
No. I thought we were supposed to hear in October, but I'm not an expert on that. But as far as I know, there's been no announcement. I do know there were 7 communities vying for the one position. So.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Where's the old
Okay, no questions further? All right, now we come to items from the council. Anyone have anything they want to discuss?
500 block of Main Street.
I have a couple of things I'd like to mention. I'd like to congratulate the incumbent councilors for winning their seats again for another 4 years. So I think that's great. Okay, and the other issue that I'd like to mention is the okaying of marijuana, recreational marijuana downtown. As you know, I was against it, and I still don't like it, but I think we did the right thing by putting it on the ballot and a vote of the people. Now, the people have spoken, and I go ahead with them 100%. So I think that was a right move by the council to put that on the ballot.
What were the final numbers on that?
It was about 3-1, wasn't it, something?
Well, what I saw was the question of whether we maintain the ban or not. The no vote was 55%. So to not have the ban or to legalize the sale, commercial sale, 55% in favor of that position. The tax, the second measure, I saw passing at 75%.
Good. So that initial, the no against the ban, actually, the numbers drove a little higher than the initial measure 47, or the initial.
Here in town?
Yeah, it was one at 50.
The statewide measure, those in favor of legalized marijuana in Oregon, I think it was 51.5.
Oh, in Lebanon.
Yes, in Lebanon,
Right.
51.5 approximately.
Interesting.
The certified results will be at the December meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
So, budget implications will be worked out, and that revenue projection will be included in
Yeah, and right now,
Don't have a dispensary, so
17,
there's
18,
zero.
18
Yeah.
budget.
it's a 3% tax, but right now, it's 3% against an unknown sales volume. We really don't know. It'll depend on whether we get any commercial sales, A, and then B, what are the volumes from those businesses?
We have already had inquiries today.
You have?
Yes.
So
Today?
the state tax, we don't, because we didn't pass it initially, we don't get to participate in that portion?
Well, as I understand it, now that we have accepted the sale, commercial sale of recreational marijuana, that we will be entitled to part of that revenue. That's what I understand.
State share.
I'm not an expert on, am I correct?
2017.
Yeah. Again, we don't know how much that'll be either, but I think the initial volumes of revenue coming in are much greater than what they initially anticipated.
I forgot to mention that Mayor Paul was reelected also, so we should congratulate him on that. I know Paul's having some illness right now, but I think the progress is going to be great from what I hear, so our prayers are with him.
Here, here.
Okay, no other items from the council. Okay, we go to the public comments. An opportunity for citizens to comment on items of city business. Anyone in the audience would like to come up and make a comment? Now's your chance. Seeing none, we'll move on then. Items from the press.
Come on.
None from either one of you?
I don't take all the phone calls, but I did have, I had one today, and I know that someone up front at the Community Development Department, they came back and asked me questions about it because they had a call about the licensing.
What's the application process like?
Well, it'll have to come back to council in December. We still have to go through the process. The county has to certify the results. The council has to accept them in December. And the
And we'll be looking at whether we need to make any proposals with respect to
policy.
licensing policies and that kind of stuff, that we will bring back recommendations to the council.
Okay. Any other? Oh,
So an
okay.
estimate time frame as to when businesses could be operational? December, January?
What's your best guess, Trey?
They won't be able to apply until probably the certification. So however fast we can move after that, I guess.
So I don't know that it would be considered an emergency for the ordinance, so I would think it would be 30 days after that.
Depends on who you ask.
That's true, Rebecca? No. It's so much fun to give you.
Yes, thanks.
Early next year, probably?
Yeah, the only thing I was going to check is to make sure if there was any difference of us getting it in place before the start of the year for the tax part of it, so I want to take a look at that.
Oh,
That's part of the reason that I asked the question.
We did receive some information from the Department of Revenue, so we're still looking into that information.
And then the other question that the council needs to identify is, do we want the state to act as the agent for that collection, or whether we would want to do that through our own revenue scenarios? So
The League of Cities has come up with a model agreement, intergovernmental agreement between the state and the city that we've received in the last couple of days. I passed it on to Trey. So we'll be looking at that. We don't know the answers to that or how we might recommend.
it would take some skin out of the game
Yeah.
to do that, but what would impact the cost of our collection efforts be for that? So I'd appreciate some staff report, to highlight those two issues and how we would resolve it. What would be the best proposal to accept?
I believe they'll look into that, Robert. Okay, next scheduled council meetings, December 14th, 2016 at 6 p.m., regular session, and January 11th, 2017 at 6 p.m., regular session. We are adjourned.